Well, I started going to punk rock shows, and I wasn't a musician, so I didn't know how to play any instruments. But the scene was really compelling and exciting, and I wanted to participate in some way. And I thought, well, I can be the photographer. The scene was kind of like older kids. I was kind of younger, so I was a little bit shy. And so kind of the first roles, you can tell, like I'm kind of shooting from farther back in the club. But I just kept showing up. There was one club called Raoul's that was like right across from the university where I was. And so I just started going every night and just kept shooting bands. Well, I shoot black and white for a couple of reasons. One is the simplicity of the material. Like I can process black and white myself at home, and I can print it. So I like that it's really DIY, and that I can do it completely with very easy chemistry and very cheap. But also I like the look of black and white. To me, it's just really, I don't know, punk. You know, it's like very raw, and the control is just, you're basically doing one thing, you know, you're putting light, you know, into a scene, you know. There's no color, it's just either black or white or gray. Yeah, the Black Flag photo that we're using on the poster for the show was the third time Black Flag had come to Austin, and it was the second time that Henry was with the band, and it was the biggest show that had so far in Texas. I just really like the way that girl is grabbing Henry, but you know, there was just a lot of interaction in those shows those days between the audience and the band, and like I said, it was just a really old theater and had these big the PA stacks, and so I would just like climb up on top of the PA stack so I could kind of shoot down on top of people. So it was a big theater, and everybody was ready to go crazy. And at one point, a friend of mine was like jumping up on stage, and Henry just grabbed my friend and tackled him. I just held him down on the floor, and my friend is trying to escape from Henry. And yeah, it was a really high energy show. You know, I mean, Henry's kind of a crazy guy, but that night I was able to get really close, and he was kind of cool with me. I mean, I was like, you know, getting right in his face. Not every band was cool with that. Like I was shooting the Bad Brains that same summer, and HR, the singer of the Bad Brains, just like came over and knocked my camera out of my hands. So the Hosoi picture that we're featuring on the shirts, I shot in 1982 in Whittier, California. And the park was called Skate City, and I was touring with the Big Boys to California. So it was our first trip to California. So when you grow up in Texas, all you can think about as a kid is going to California, you know, and seeing pros. So that was the first professional contest I ever saw. So, and that was the practice day before. So it was really cool. So all the pros are practicing, and you know, you could have all the access you want to be able to shoot. This was a crazy night. So this is also at the Ritz Theater, the same place the Black Flag show was at. For one summer, we had access to this theater, and it was a huge place, and a bunch of touring bands were coming through, and you know, people heard, oh, the Misfits are going to be playing. Well, they were kind of notorious because they'd been getting in a lot of fights. And so there was a zine that came out right before the show about how one of I think the bass player like smashed his bass on somebody in the audience over their head. And so when they came to Austin, everybody's like kind of freaked out, like what's going to happen. And there weren't any fights, but it was the loudest show I'd ever heard in my entire life. Yeah, it's just somebody just stage diving. Yeah, it was just somebody like they caught him upside down and just held him. So he was just like, it's like, oh yeah, feet. And also one thing I was doing, like, you know, my trusty, I was using the same flash, and so sometimes I would just turn it up all the way in order to make things pure white. So like, we're talking about black and white and why I shoot black and white and not color. A lot of the things I'm interested in are just like the pure graphic element. This is a graphic form, it's like, well, I could print this with a little bit of detail here, but I really like into this idea that, you'll see in a lot of my prints, there's a lot of just solid black and a lot of solid white, And so just by turning the flash really high and pushing in close, you can make white areas that way. So it's just really about graphics, about abstraction, right? I think I do this kind of photography for two reasons. And one is for the aesthetic, for the design, basically to create energy and pleasure, by using light and black and white film. And the other one is for documentary purposes, to basically create history or to record history. So when all this stuff was going on, I thought that the future would want to know about this, right? So for me, photography, especially black and white photography, is a way to communicate with the future, right? Because a lot of the things that we love, we learn from the past. I kind of feel like the generations are always building, right? And so by documenting your own era and with photography, you're able to send that information into the future. And because black and white photography is archivally stable, right? The pictures will last 100 years. So I like to think in 100 years or maybe 500 years, somebody will have my pictures.